Welcome to Liberty's Cage, the podcast tearing down the walls of America's broken justice system, where prisons punish more than they heal, courts serve power over the truth, and patriots are left to fight for their lives after serving their time. Born from the fire of January 6th, where heroes were targeted for standing up for America, we expose the corruption, amplify the silence, and demand a justice system worthy of our Constitution. I'm Sarah McAbee, and today I'm thrilled to have my co-host Shane Jenkins back after being away for a few weeks. Shane, how are you?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Well rested and feeling good.
So give us a quick update on a rundown. You've been like all over the country and doing all things January 6th related. Give us an update.
Well, I did have to take care of some personal business. I guess we've already talked about Bart's funeral and all that. I did take a road trip and went to go see Jenny Cudd at the Road Home Project, and then I went to I can't remember the name of the place in Missouri. Also another Jan 6 gathering. And then last week I went to take care of some family business. I promised my mom that I would sprinkle her ashes from Sierra Blanca, which is a mountain peak in Ruidoso, New Mexico. And she passed away in 2012, and I was finally able to do that with my two sons. Just a wonderful experience. It was emotionally difficult, but I just felt like I honored my mom and her wishes, and I got to say goodbye. And I could have asked for a prettier place. And there's a main peak, and then there's a smaller peak, but there's a place in between called the Saddle. There's this beautiful field of purple flowers where we sprinkled her ashes. So it was phenomenal, and I will never forget that moment. So.
If people want to follow you for updates as you travel the country and go to speaking engagements and on podcasts, where can they find you?
I have my own podcast on Rumble on the Real J6. Also on Twitter, we go live on Monday, 6 to 8 usually, and that's the Real J6 Shane on X. And there's a bunch of other channels, but that's the main ones I use. Also TikTok, the Real J6, also my TikTok. So.
Yeah, you can go to therealj6.com/Shane, and it'll have his story as well as all of the links on there and some pretty cool merch that he comes up with. And at the end of today's episode, we'll kind of go over where Stand in the Gap is, what we're doing for January 6th defendants, and really the life that they have had to endure after January 20th. But Shane, do you want to introduce our guest today?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a man, also named Shane, great name. Some might say the best name, but Shane Lamond, DC police officer, and we're just glad to have you on the show, man. We hate what you're going through, but we would love to hear. We're happy to have you. We'd love to hear what you have to say, sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. First of all, I've got a crazy story I've been dealing with for the last over 3 years now. And glad that I can finally get my side of the story out and get to the truth of the matter.
Yeah, well, that's what we're about here. We something about January 6th really opened our eyes to where, we see the we see the way the system treats people, and it's unfair and it's unfortunate. I think we have an opportunity to share this with the world. And so, yeah, if you just want to kind of give us your background, you're obviously law enforcement, you're also a veteran, so thank you for your service, but give us a little bit background about you and about what you did for a living.
Sure. So did 6 years in the United States Air Force, got out in 2000, joined the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, was there for 23 years. Started out as a patrol officer, was promoted to patrol sergeant about 5 years in, did 4 years as a patrol sergeant, was promoted to lieutenant. I was a patrol lieutenant for about 8 years before getting handpicked to be the new intelligence branch commander for the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. So very big role, very big job, and it was my dream job. So I was in love with it once I was selected for it. Part of my duties in that role were to look for any type of threats to any type of First Amendment demonstrations. Of course, being the nation's capital, we had anywhere from hundreds, if not thousands, of First Amendment demonstrations each year. My unit was tasked with looking for any type of threats for these events. and to monitor the actual events for any type of criminal or terrorist activity being conducted under the guise of lawful First Amendment demonstrations.
So you had to monitor every protest, every single thing that was going on in DC at any given time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could range from, only 5 people to up to, I mean, thousands to tens of thousands. Like the March for Life, we had tens of thousands of people for those. So all of those we had to monitor. And a lot of them were very, very peaceful. But some of them, like the Stop the Steal, Million MAGA marches, things of that nature, George Floyd riots. I mean, we had thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, and we had both the primary groups, and we had a lot of counter protesters, counter groups. So it was very, very critical for us to identify any types of threats to these and any type of safety incidents.
Yeah, well, and so I imagine after the summer of love, quote unquote love, things got very dicey, and there was probably, I mean, you had Antifa, you had BLM, you had people like the Proud Boys, those keepers, other. We used to call them for us. Okay, thank you. They had a microphone on in the studio, I believe, and they were cleaning up down there. They got it taken care of. So yeah, I mean, and was there, I don't remember particularly there being, I guess there was, I do recall before January 6th, there were some stabbings and stuff like that. Was there some escalation? And I'm assuming you had to have liaisons with some of the friendlier groups. You had to have people that you communicated with. Hey, we're coming into town. My group, XYZ pro-life group, is coming into town, and we're just letting you know. So in case Antifa comes, you'll know where we're at, so you can kind of keep an eye out for them or whatever stuff. Is that kind of basically the premise of what you would be doing?
Yep, that's exactly the premise. Like I said, I'd been doing it for 23 years in one capacity or another, whether it be uniformed or as intel. And that's exactly what we did. We tried coordinated with the organizers, the group organizers, find out if there are any threats, and also find out like where they're planning on protesting, if they're planning on marching. So if there's any intel on counter groups, we're able to keep a buffer between both groups or all the different groups. So they all have, the ability to exercise their First Amendment rights, but keep separation so there's no violence and no assaults occurring.
And I think that's an important aspect for people to say, like, so you have, let's say you have the Proud Boys and you have BLM and Antifa on the other side. Your job is also to protect BLM and Antifa, though you may not agree, or you may agree, whatever your politics are. That's an interesting aspect that you would, it seems like, because I think they have a pretty bad reputation as far as that goes. So who was your contact point within the Proud Boys?
It was Enrique Tarrio, who was the president of the Proud Boys at that time.
Okay. And so is this kind of what got you tripped up? What's going on? Like, what's going on with you? So now this is what you've done for all these years, and Summer of Love comes. And so I don't know what particular incident got you caught up, but I just want you to kind of share what you've been charged with or alleged you did. I would like to hear about all of that.
Sure, absolutely. So I first met Enrique back in July of 2019. The Proud Boys and some other conservative groups were planning a big demonstration in Washington, D.C. As always, we were coordinating with the main organizer, and my job was to talk to the organizers and find out if they're aware of any like threats or counter groups that may interfere with their event. And the organizer informed me that the Proud Boys had received some social media threats. So I asked the organizer to put me in touch with somebody from the Proud Boys who would have information on it. Of course, I was connected with Enrique Tarrio, as you mentioned, the leader of the Proud Boys at this time. And he gave me the information on the threats. And given the fact that the Proud Boys were kind of a controversial group in D.C., and they always brought counter protesters, counter demonstrators, and counter groups, he and I developed a professional relationship where he would always let me know when they were planning on coming to Washington, D.C., would give me information like what hotels they were planning on staying at, what monuments they were planning on demonstrating at, and if they were planning on marching, he would give me their march routes. So I could inform our Special Operations Division, which is the group that uses the uniform officers and keep separation between the groups, kind of do traffic control and provide safety for everybody involved, to include law enforcement and the citizens of DC. So we had a good relationship, and at no time did I hide this. I mean, my entire chain of command knew that I was speaking with Enrique through these. And at some point, they even asked me to reach out to them and find out, what their plans were, so I could get it to our special operations division.
Well, and it's your job too, right? They've instructed you to make sure that all parties are safe.
Yeah.
Parties that they might be like two rabid dogs that one's going to attack the other one, the other one's going to fight back if it gets attacked. It's your job to keep them separated, and then eventually that came back to bite you in the butt.
Oh yeah, and I had been asked, if we did the same for like BLM and Antifa, and the answer is yes. I reached out to them as well. In fact, I even investigated some threats for their groups and were able to identify suspects and let them know that. And I also offered the same thing that I did to Proud Boys and other groups. If you want to let me know your details, I can pass it on to my chain of command so we can keep, all the groups safe. Now, they weren't interested in doing it. They never provided me information, but we did reach out, and we made that same offer that we did with all the groups equally.
All right. Do you want to take us out, Sarah?
Yeah, for sure. So as our audience can see, Shane Lamont is a stand-up man. He served this country honorably, not only in the Air Force. I'm an Air Force family, so thank you for your service. It runs deep in my family lineage. But also for what you did in first responder aspect, and I think this is what America needs to know. When we come back, we're going to talk about more in detail about what is going on. Mr. Lamont got absolutely railroaded by the federal government, much like other January 6th defendants. And now he's here to tell his side of the story. And I think Americans need to know that if it could happen to somebody like Mr. Lamont, like Shane Jenkins, like our January 6th defendants, if we don't turn this justice system around, they're going to come after you. So when we come back, we will hear from Mr. Lamont.
Corrupt judges, broken families, families torn apart. This isn't justice. If you've been wronged by the system, join us. Don't stand alone. Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs, president of Americans for Legal Reform. We're the oldest legal reform group in the United States. The justice system in the United States should be transparent, fair, and open to everybody and accessible. Unfortunately, many times that's not the case. At Americans for Legal Reform, we are here to help. Join the movement. Visit AmericansForLegalReform.com and help reform the system before it fails you.
Hi, my name is Elena Ruseva, aka Megalangela. Please check my art at www.megalangela.vip.
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.
The Queens Village Republican Club is America's oldest Republican club, founded in 1875. Situated in President Trump's hometown in Queens, New York, we are America First MAGA Republicans, empowering fellow Republicans to get involved in the game of politics at the grassroots level. We host inspiring monthly club meetings on the first Thursday of each month at 8 p.m. For more information, please go to our website at www.qvgop.org.
It's Tuesday here at the America First Warehouse. I am Joe the Box.
And I'm John the Blanket. Freddie Rubino here from the America First Warehouse, coming to you live, the most patriotic venue in the land.
Welcome to Right for America.
I'm James Justice. We got Stephen Ruth over here. What are we doing, Steve? Fighting!
Welcome to Tune In Tuesday of the Patriots Podcast, live streaming every Tuesday night at 7:30.
Another edition of On the Right Side here, and you can catch us weekly, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
And welcome to Liberty's Cage, where we rip the veil off America's broken justice system. Prisons that crush spirits, courts that bend to power, and a society that shuns people who have paid their price.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kevin Downey Jr. Podcast. Be free, stay free.
Welcome back to Liberty's Cage. I'm your host, Sarah McAbee, joined by my co-host, Shane Jenkins. And before the break, we were talking to Shane Lamond, who is a former Air Force veteran and Metropolitan Police officer, intelligence officer, actually. And Mr. Lamond was going through his past and what led up to the government absolutely railroading him. So, Shane Jenkins, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, we just wanted to apologize for the technical difficulties in the previous segment, but I believe our control room has it under control. But yeah, so we really wanted to hear, you kind of had established this relationship, and you were the liaison for the police department, and you liaised with all the people who were coming to town and made sure that they were protected, both sides of the walkway or aisle, as you would say. And so kind of tell us how things got sideways, like what happened.
Right. So, like I said, as we went through the summer of love into the fall of 2020, during the Million MAGA marches and the Stop the Steal, all of those events, I mean, the violence was increasing. We're having serious assaults, not only during the events, but afterwards, when the groups were kind of marching in the streets and clashing, to the point where people were getting stabbed and the violence was really increasing. We really saw a huge change or shift in December of 2020. I believe it was December 11th. Proud Boys were in town for one of the events, and afterwards they started marching in the streets, and Antifa and Black Lives Matter were out there looking for them. And at one point, some of the groups went to a historically black church and pulled a BLM, a Black Lives Matter banner down and set it on fire. And that was really the tipping point of this whole, or my whole ordeal, or my case, if you will. Immediately, the Metropolitan Police Department posted on social media, I believe the FBI did as well, posted on social media that that banner burning was being investigated as a potential hate crime. And given the fact that all of this violence was escalating, I ended up meeting with Enrique in person in DC a few days after that. I think it was around December 15th. And it was even more critical for me to get information on what they were planning on beginning of January, because they had announced they were coming back in town. And President Trump even said, come on January 6th, it'll be wild.
Well, so can you explain this to me? It's legal to burn the American flag in America, but it's illegal to pull down. I understand it's vandalism or destruction of property, but to burn a flag, just like any other flag, it shouldn't matter what the flag says, is considered a hate crime?
Well, and I agree with that. And it's funny because my personal opinion that I gave to Enrique was used against me in my trial and during my interview. But so technically it isn't illegal, or it's not a hate crime to burn a BLM banner, but since it didn't belong to them, that was a crime. It'd be destruction of property. However, and as I pointed out in my conversations with Enrique, during the Summer of Love, I saw American flags being carried by people, taken by BLM and Antifa groups, and set on fire. And to my knowledge, I don't know of one person who was arrested or prosecuted for that. And that would be a crime against a person, which technically is a robbery, and that's a felony, versus the BLM banner, which is a crime against a property, and it was a misdemeanor. It's a nonviolent misdemeanor charge.
Yeah. But they were so set on, well, and there you're going to consider where you are. You're in DC also, which is a 97% Biden voting district. And I saw, it blew my mind on January 5th when I was in town, and I saw all the buildings with the BLM banners on it. And it was almost like, if you put your BLM banner on our building, then we won't mess with, we won't mess with you, or you're paying homage to BLM, so they'll leave you alone, or they won't destroy your building or whatever. And it's just like, my goodness.
Right.
So it went wrong there. And then you spoke to him the days after, and then.
Yeah, the days after, trying to get information from him about what they were planning in January, because we started to see a lot of false flag events on social media. Like Antifa groups would post pretending to be Proud Boys and saying, they're coming in there with shields and weapons, and we're going to dress up like Antifa, so nobody can identify them. And I went straight to the source, the leader of the Proud Boys, to find out what was true and what's not, what's fake posts and what's true. And ahead of that meeting, my chain of command knew that I was going, because I was even asked to show the pictures that we had, that the Metropolitan Police Department had, of these people burning the banner, to see if Enrique could identify any of them. And I did that. He, of course, he said he didn't recognize anybody, and I told my chain of command that. But kind of funny, he did some social engineering, and he went back to his people afterwards. And, you know, being the showman he is, and he likes to draw a lot of attention, he said, "Oh, I confessed to this police officer that I burned the banner," which he never did. But that was used against me in trial, and even though it's circumstantial evidence, they believed it, and that was one of the charges against me.
Even though he didn't say, "I confessed to Officer Shane Lamond that I did,"
right,
they still considered that as being you.
Yep, and he never did. He never did. But what he did do is, the day after that, he posted on social media, he posted on his podcast that he burned the Black Lives Matter. So he had admitted publicly to burning the banner, not to me, but to the entire world, you know, anybody with access to the internet. And what did I do? I actually took those links and sent them to our criminal investigations division, the unit that was investigating the Black Lives Matter banner.
Right.
I sent them the link to his podcast where he admitted to doing it, and I verified that that was his voice who did it. So I actually helped our department
furthered the investigation.
Exactly. And
they say that because he said he told an officer the day before that they assumed it was you, and they used that against you.
Yes.
Because they assumed that it was also you, but then the next day you helped them because you saw the links that he. So they're saying you withheld information, basically.
Exactly, yes, which they say, you know, could have helped them. Well, they already got the arrest warrant for him. I had, you know, provided all the links where he publicly admitted to it, but that was me helping him out. The funny thing was, during my trial, one of the prosecution's own witnesses stated that they received a lot of the information that went into the application for Enrique's arrest warrant. They got it firsthand from me. And one of them even testified that had I not provided that information, they may not have ever stumbled on it. So right there, I helped them. I aided them with the investigation. Yet the judge still said that I obstructed. That was my obstruction charge. So I was charged with 4 different felony charges. One was obstruction of justice. And I impeded the Black Lives Matter banner burning, and 3 counts of false statements.
Gosh, is that actually the federal 1512 charge?
It's the federal 1001 charge.
Is that federal court or superior? Is it superior or is it federal?
So the obstruction of justice charge, they charged me under the DC code 1, which we're not sure exactly why, but it may have been because there was a mandatory minimum associated with that one. However, that's our speculation. But the other 3 charges were federal charges, but they were all done in one trial in a district court in DC.
So did they make an arrest? Did they arrest you?
So they did. My investigation went on for about 2 years, and my attorney kept reaching out to the U.S. Attorney's Office, you know, asking them what's the holdup, you know, what are we waiting on? And they would never respond. They just said, you know, investigation's ongoing. Enrique and some of the other Proud Boys had their trial, which concluded, I believe it was May 4th of 2023. And magically, 2 weeks after the conclusion of their trial, where they were all found guilty, 2 weeks later, I'm notified that I had been indicted by the grand jury on those 4 charges I just talked to about, and I had to turn myself in immediately. And I want to point out the very interesting thing about that. I was notified on a Thursday afternoon that I was indicted, and there was an arrest warrant issued for me. And when my attorney told me that my daughter's high school graduation was the next day on the 19th, I asked through my attorney if I could turn myself in either Saturday after her graduation or the following Monday. I was a career law enforcement and military veteran, you know, with ties to the community. I wasn't in a flight risk, but they told me no, I either had to turn myself in that Friday or they were going to send the U.S. Marshals to pick me up.
So you ended up missing your daughter's graduation?
Fortunately, no. I turned myself in first thing in the morning. I got there 6:30 in the morning, spent about 10 hours in holding in district court. but I was able to see a judge at, I think it was between 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I live an hour away, so as soon as I was released, hightailed it back down there, and I literally just made it into the stands with my family with about 10, 15 minutes to spare before my daughter actually walked the stage and got her diploma.
And I just watched my own daughter graduate this last year, so I can definitely relate to that. I can only imagine the relief of you getting there on time and the whole other turmoil going on in your heart and in your
Exactly. Yeah, it was breaking my heart because, you know, this was a decorated, and I had never been in trouble before in the department. I had received a life-saving medal, 2 achievement awards, and I got a ribbon of valor for my efforts on January 6th. All of that from the department, and this is how I was treated.
And you've been promoted up through the ranks as a DC police officer, so it wasn't like you came in from somewhere else.
Right.
Through the ranks. Yeah,
I was a lieutenant. Like I said, I was handpicked to be the head of the intelligence branch for the police department.
Golly. So I'm assuming they let you out on bond that day.
They did, yes. I was released that day and just notified of my future court dates.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get back to this. We'll let Sarah take us out of here.
Yeah, this just doesn't sound like America, even though we've dealt with this for the last 4 years with January 6 defendants, you know, and Shane Lamont and I and Shane Jenkins have been talking for the last few days, and just hearing your story again, it's just absolutely heartbreaking that this is how the Department of Justice, the federal Department of Justice, treats its own American citizens. And it's not just the turmoil that we've been talking about with what's been going on with you. It has leaked into your family. I mean, to the point that you almost missed your daughter's graduation, a once in a lifetime thing. And I'm very thankful that you made it. But I think America needs to know that it just doesn't stop with you.
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.
Are you a musician, comedian, actor, filmmaker, or artist who stands for traditional American values? Do you believe in the preservation of our nation, our culture, and our freedoms? If you share our passion for America and want to use your talents to make a difference, we want to hear from you. Our mission is clear. Through the arts, we uphold the principles of freedom, faith, family, and the American spirit. It's time to step up to the mic and make your voices heard. So contact us at AmericanConservativeArtists.com.
Good morning. It's me, Joe the Box, wearing my Border 911 hat signed by Tom Holman, Rodney Scott, and Sarah Carter. The country has had enough. The American Horror Story is over. Border 911. Tom Holman is coming through. My brother's son, my friends' children. We're done with it. 100,000 were lost lives every single year. God bless you, Tom.
The Queens Village Republican Club is America's oldest Republican club, founded in 1875. Situated in President Trump's hometown in Queens, New York, we are America First MAGA Republicans, empowering fellow Republicans to get involved in the game of politics at the grassroots level. We host inspiring monthly club meetings on the first Thursday of each month at 8 p.m. For more information, please go to our website at www.qvgop.org.
America First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed, because there is nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Welcome back to Liberty's Cage, where we are speaking with former Metropolitan Intelligence Officer Shane Lamont, and we are going through what the government has done to him and his family by railroading him for speaking the truth. And that's really what it all boils down to. If you don't agree with them, they are going to come after you and your family.
So back to what we were talking about, you had been released on bond, and then in this time you were on bond, I guess the Proud Boys were set to go to trial, and I guess they requested for you to testify at their trial. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, this was actually before I was arrested, but while I had already been notified about my investigation. That's true. I was listed as one of Enrique Tarrio's main witnesses, and the government definitely did not want that because they didn't want me testifying to, all our conversations, which were completely legitimate, where he never told me about, planning any crimes or committing any crimes, and I never gave him any law enforcement information. But in order to prevent me from testifying on his behalf, and I was going to be a star witness, they created this investigation for me and just hung it over my head for years while his trial was going on. And then, like I said earlier, after the conclusion of his trial is when they indicted me and arrested me for mine, which started my trial.
And so how long were you out on bond from the time you were arrested until the time your trial started?
It was just under a year and a half. My trial didn't actually take place until December of 2024, and I was arrested May of 2023. So
for the general public who's never been involved with the unjust system or the injustice system or whatever you want to call it, from the time you get arrested and charged with something until you're waiting, you're in limbo and you're waiting on trial. And I can imagine like everything in your life kind of gets put on hold. Sometimes you can't travel, and it's just like this guillotine waiting to come down, and it's like looming over your head, and you can't really look very far down range because you've got to deal with that before anything else happens. So you decided to go to trial?
Yes, I did. And like you mentioned, it's nerve-wracking because I couldn't apply for another job. I couldn't work because I had a pending federal felony charges. Like you mentioned, the whole innocent until proven guilty. Well, that's not true because any firearms I had, which I'm a law enforcement officer, of course I'm going to have firearms. I couldn't have, even though I hadn't been proven guilty at this point. Like you mentioned, couldn't travel internationally, and had to check in with pretrial services every week leading up to my trial. But eventually, like you mentioned, December of 2024, I finally went to trial. And we had actually requested a bench trial because, first of all, I'm a police officer in Washington, D.C., so a jury of my peers doesn't exist. They're going to be, as you pointed out earlier, mostly Biden supporters. I was a white police officer, which is even worse. This was coming in the heels of two D.C. police officers, one of them who was charged and later convicted of murder, a white police officer that I knew personally. Excuse me, he had just been convicted by a jury, a D.C. jury. So I wanted to take my chances with a judge who, in my opinion, I thought she was going to be fair and unbiased, as a judge should be, but definitely wasn't the case.
Right. So who was your judge?
It was Judge Amy Berman Jackson of the U.S. District Court.
Yeah, I think I know a few people who've been through her courtroom before. January 6th, I think somebody said Roger Stone earlier went through her courtroom.
Yes, Roger Stone went before her, exactly.
I think you got the book thrown at him. But so your trial, I think you said earlier your trial was 5 days. Is that what it was?
Yes, went about 5 days long. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So did you get found not guilty or?
No, I was found guilty by Judge Jackson of all four counts, all four charges against me. And when she read the verdict, she spent about 2 hours just berating me, not believing a word that I said or my other witness, who just happened to be Enrique Tarrio. She found neither one of us credible. In fact, she even called him the worst witness she's ever had sit next to her on her bench. And, throughout the entire trial, I couldn't believe it because I had to sit there. The prosecution came out the gate swinging, During their opening statements, they called me a Proud Boy sympathizer, a double agent. I was branded a traitor in the media, like immediately. All these articles came out. My family, I started receiving threats, death threats, and harassment through social media because of what the prosecution, what the government said, and all these media outlets just jumped on it and picked it up and ran with it. So for months, I had to put up with that.
Well, what a lot of people don't know is that in the opening statements and the closing statements of a trial, the prosecution for the federal government or any government agency that's running this trial is allowed to, they could say you're a unicorn. They could lie, knowingly and intentionally lie about you in opening statements and in closing statements. It is permissible for the government to lie against you, to tamper. I feel like that if they're believable, saying those kind of things to the jury, then the jury is possibly going to buy those things, and that's going to contaminate really the rest of the trial. So they're going to have to explain to me why that's permissible. So did you get sentenced that day that you were found guilty, or do they have a sentencing later on?
No. So our trial concluded around, I think it was December 14th, and the judge needed some time since this was a bench trial. She had to write up the verdict and the judgment. So we went back on December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas, and I sat in front of her for about 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours, talking about, what a horrible person I am, and then finding me guilty of all 4 counts. And then I was released again and just told that I'll be getting a later date for the sentencing, which just happened to be June 6th of this year, where I was sentenced to 18 months incarceration, followed by 18 months of supervised release afterwards.
Wow. And so when is that set to start?
August the 5th. I'm supposed to turn myself in August the 5th. And well, another interesting thing, I should have been eligible for a prison camp because I had, according to my felony points, I've got 8 points. And as I understand it, anything under 15 is supposed to be a prison camp eligible. And I had no, mine wasn't a crime of violence, nothing like that. There was nothing, no prior criminal history. And I had been fully compliant with all my release conditions. But magically, when I got my BOP designation, I'm now designated for a Federal Correctional Institute. So actual prison versus a prison camp.
Why wouldn't you be, if you have no clearly you have no criminal record, you're a police officer, why wouldn't you be eligible for probation, or why wouldn't you be eligible for home confinement?
Judge Jackson felt during her sentencing that I didn't show any remorse throughout the trial, or even when I gave my statement before she rendered her verdict. And of course, I couldn't show any remorse because I still maintain, from the beginning, and I still do to this day, I did not commit any of the criminal acts that they alleged that I did. And how can I show remorse for something that I didn't do? And I was as respectful as I could. I even told her respectfully, I disagree with the court's decision. I said that, I could see how they could have interpreted that, but I testified my own defense. I cleared up everything that was brought up. Enrique, the other party of all these communications between us, testified to the exact same thing that I did, that I never tipped him off about the warrant, everything else that I said, that I never provided him with any law enforcement information, but it was all disregarded, and she felt that a prison sentence would be appropriate for somebody who never committed a criminal act. This was technically a victimless crime. There was no victim for it. It wasn't a crime of violence, and everything that I was doing was to ensure the safety of everyone involved, not only the Proud Boys, but Antifa, Black Lives Matter, any other counter groups, all of the citizens of DC that were, around these rallies, these demonstrations, to include law enforcement as well.
Well, I think it was pretty indicative of her opinion whenever she said that Enrique, because how was Enrique's testimony? Was it on point, or was it?
Yes, he was very respectful. There was an issue at the beginning, but in my opinion, the judge even went against her own orders. Now, since this wasn't a jury trial, but the jury instructions that had to be approved by all sides beforehand, she put in there, mine was not a J6 case, so there should be no references January 6th. The prosecution's first question for Enrique was, were there any Proud Boys on January 6th at the Capitol? And he said, whoa, I'm not testifying about January 6th. I plead the fifth. And the judge told Enrique that he elected to testify for me, therefore, and waive his Fifth Amendment privilege. Therefore, he had to answer the question. And he said, no, I will testify to all my interactions with Lieutenant Lamond, but we're not talking about January 6th. And there was some back and forth, but the judge finally told the government that move on and not ask that question. And from that point forward, he was cooperative, he was respectful, and he answered the prosecution's all of their questions.
So I think maybe her opinion of him being the worst witness had more to do of his January 6th activities than it was actually in his testimony.
And I think that's fair, absolutely.
Which may have rolled over into your dilemma that you find yourself in, unfortunately.
Yep, absolutely. Had it not been for Enrique Tarrio, I don't think I'd be in this situation.
Well, we're going to try to get you through the situation. We're definitely praying for you and cheering for you. You got any questions, Sarah?
Well, to me, it sounds like this judge can have an opinion, but you are not allowed to state or plead your case as an upstanding American citizen, law enforcement officer, and former veteran. She could care less about what you, or I'm sure any of the people that wrote you character references, had to say about you. She already had it made up in her mind who you were. I'm sure she already had her sentence laid out before she walked out of the judge's chambers that day. And it's simply because you go against the narrative. I would like to know, and when we come back, we can talk about it, just how many constitutional rights were violated in your case. I know for January 6 defendants, there were numerous ones, but just hearing you talk about the speedy trial, that's the Sixth Amendment violation. And we are in a lawless society right now.
And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further.
This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward.
In the shadows of power, a hidden war rages, fought not with guns or bombs, but with information. In the quiet corridors of government, behind closed doors, and on screens that light up our lives, a new kind of control is taking root. The truth is no longer something we can trust. It's something we must fight to find. This is the story of a nation in crisis, a country that once prided itself on freedom and democracy, now teetering on the edge of an unseen abyss, a place where dissent is silenced, where voices are erased, and where the very foundations of liberty are being rewritten before our eyes. Big tech has aligned itself with the deep state, and they have a plan to shape reality, control what you see, and decide what you believe. In this digital age, the line between truth and manipulation has all but vanished, and those who dare challenge the narrative, they are erased, censored, forgotten. On January 6, 2021, the people rose, angry, disillusioned, demanding answers. They were branded as threats, insurgents, terrorists. But what if the real threat isn't the people in the streets? What if the true insurgency lies within the very system that claims to protect us? What if the greatest danger to democracy is the one behind the curtain?
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.
Welcome back to Liberty's Cage, where we are busting the narrative of what people think the American justice system is like. And we have done that today with Mr. Shane Lamon, who was a former U.S. Metropolitan Intelligence Officer in Washington, D.C., who unfortunately got wrapped up in things surrounding January 6th, even though it really had nothing to do with January 6th. And Mr. Lamon, we want to know how has this bled into your family? Because we know it just doesn't affect you. And what does it look like the next few weeks, few months ahead, and how the American people can help?
Sure. I mean, great question. This has been absolutely devastating for everybody. For me, my family. I lost my dream career. I'm financially ruined because I had to liquidate all of my assets, my retirement, to afford my attorney. My family and I, like I said earlier, received, threats from so many different people. This went global. My mom's French, and she has some family in France, and they emailed and called her asking what is going on because they saw my name, as a headline on French television. So it went international, and it's just been devastating. My mother's elderly. My father passed away in 2017. He was a decorated Army military intelligence officer. So that's also why this was my dream career, because I was following in his footsteps. But I'm the primary caretaker for my mom, who already suffers from multiple health issues. And this has made it so much worse for her. She's actually had more health issues, both physical and mental, just from the stress of it. And if I have to report to prison in the next, less than 2 weeks now, it was 2 weeks from yesterday, she has nobody to take care of her. It's unfathomable.
That is for, and the sad thing is that the government does not give a damn about you. It doesn't give a damn about me. It only cares about that they're going to hurt the people who have had the courage to just do the right thing, to tell the truth, to stand up. You're doing your job. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I stood for what I felt like I believe was right, and it's just going to roll right over you and me just the same, whether it agrees with us or not.
Right, exactly. I was planning on testifying not to help Enrique out during his trial, but just to tell the truth. I was a law enforcement officer. I've always been objective. I've always been unbiased. I was just going to go in there and tell the truth. If it helped him, great. If it hurt him, that so be it. But I was going to go in there and tell the truth. But that opportunity was taken away from me through the weaponization of the DOJ. And, them creating an investigation and subsequent prosecution of me for doing my job that I was asked to do.
So if nothing changes right now, you're set to turn yourself in on August 5th.
Yes.
Okay. And so, but there are some things in at play. Do you want to talk about those?
Sure. I do have a pardon, presidential pardon application submitted to Ed Martin, the U.S. Pardon Attorney's Office. As best as I know, because from what I hear, that office is absolutely swamped and they have limited staff. But I'm just hoping they're able to process that and review it, whether or not they approve it, and send it to President Trump, within the next 2 weeks. But it's questionable because, like I said, they've got, from what I understand, according to their website, over 11,000 pardon and commutation applications at this point. And mine is one of that over 11,000. So
this is our cry to Ed Martin, Alice Johnson. We're talking to you right now. We need you guys to stop what you're doing. Find Mr. Shane Lamon, Lieutenant Shane Lamon's pardon request, and please get that to the president's desk as soon as possible. Because this is not a good situation, and you don't deserve to be in prison. You should, at best, you should be at home on home confinement or something like that. So my question would be this: let's say you get a pardon. Are you going back to law enforcement? That would be
that is the $1 million question. And I don't have an answer for that. Technically, I don't even know if I could, because even with a presidential pardon, that would not erase the conviction, but it would make me legally eligible Nobody will touch it now because if you Google my name, you get 5,000 links about, calling me a traitor, a double agent, a Proud Boy sympathizer. So in the court of public opinion, I'm already tainted. Honestly, one of the things that this has really opened my eyes to, this experience, is the outpouring of support that I received has been incredible. And I do want to thank, everybody for that, because complete strangers, you all, jumping to, as soon as you heard about my case, working on assisting me in getting a pardon has been the support for both me and my family. My daughters have received messages of support from everybody, so it's overwhelming. And one of the things I'd like to do is just to pay it forward and actually help other people who have been victimized by the justice system, because this has really opened my eyes to it, and any way that I can help, I'd be more than willing to, because what I'm going through is awful. But I think about people who have been in jail or prison for months, if not years, because they were just railroaded by the justice system, and that's not fair. I mean, everybody, like I said, I did 23 years in law enforcement thinking that the justice system was fair and impartial, and this really opened my eyes to it, and I'd like to do whatever I can to ensure it is, and to right any wrongs that have been done to other people in similar situations to myself.
Well, I'll tell you this, we will hold a seat at Stand in the Gap for you whenever you're ready to come on over, and we'll start serving those, because that's what we want to do at Stand in the Gap. And I guess this is kind of a good transition into that. We want to try to see the humanity in people in prison. And even if they did break the law and they should be in prison, we have to start looking at those people like they're going to get out, because right now in federal prisons, I can tell you, it's a drug infested, gang run war zone in there. And you expect these men and women that are in there living in that situation to get out of there and to transition back into society, to their families, to their homes, to their jobs, to their churches, wherever they're going, and expect them to be successful members of society. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. And so I think we have a lot of work to do as far as changing the policies within the BOP and the way we see just the whole situation, because there's many nations around the world that do incarceration far better than we do. And we've also seen that we need to change the justice system and the way it works, because obviously there are not protections against how it's weaponized against different groups of people, whether it's the Black community or whether it's the Trump supporters or whatever it is. That should be, it's the scales of justice. She wears a blindfold and they're supposed to be balanced. And right now the blindfold's off and they're imbalanced. And so got to get back to that neutrality and just, the facts of the case. And then we've got to consider, I think in sentencing, we have to consider the family and the children and everybody else involved. And so I want to say, from man to man, Shane, great name, but I am sorry that you're having to go through this. And, we're cheering for you. We're definitely praying for you. If there's anything we can do, you have my phone number. I just wanted to plug our sponsor as well. We have a soap company called Sugar Creek Goods. If you go to sugarcreekgoods.com, promo code Liberty, you get 15% off your soap products. They also have insect repellent. They have body butter. They have bath salts. It's all excellent products made in America by Americans in Indiana. And so please support them and support us by supporting, again, that's Sugar Creek Goods at sugarcreekgoods.com. Promo code Liberty will get you 15% off. You got anything, Sarah?
Yeah, Shane, I just want to say how incredibly proud we are of you for standing up and telling your story, because I think back on how many people have gone through this broken system and haven't said anything because they are afraid. And I think it's so important that other people not only hear your story, but it empowers them to share their story, because how many people like you are currently sitting in prison or going through this system? And that is why we started Stand in the Gap. Yes, it started with January 6 defendants and their persecution, but we literally wrote our bylaws so that Stand in the Gap would outlive January 6 once we had that handled, to help people like yourself. I mean, you just hear about service members that are absolutely railroaded in the military court system, in the federal court system, state court system, whatever it is. They just want to put good people away. And we have to use our platform. Thank you, Joe and the America First Warehouse, for giving us this platform to get stories like yours out. Because it is just so important that people put a face with a name, that they see that it's not just you, but it's your family, it's your kids, it's your parents. Because so many people just look at the individual themselves and not how it overflows. And being a man of honor, being a man of servitude, we know how much it weighs on your shoulders to take care of your family, and for the next 18 months, I am sure that lingers over your head of how you're going to be able to do that. But just as Shane Jenkins said, that we are here for you. America is here for you. If things don't go the way we want them to in the next 2 weeks, we will never stop telling your story and get things out there for people to write to you, to encourage you, to truly stand in the gap for you and your family over the next 18 months. But I promise you, we're working day and night to make sure that you do not walk into those doors on August the 5th.
And
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I think I said if you get pardoned earlier, would you go back to law enforcement? What I went to say was when you get pardoned, and when you do get pardoned, I hope that we have a little shindig get together so we can celebrate your freedom and truth prevailing. So
That would be great. And thank you both very much again for giving me the opportunity to tell my story, because for the longest time, even during my trial, I wasn't able to. But this has been very helpful that, like Sarah mentioned, I can actually get my side of the story out and get the truth out for everybody to know, and hopefully to empower them, just like Sarah mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us and for being so brave. I hope we always say that courage is contagious. And so we want other people to come on to share their stories so we can continue to fight for them. And, our call to action to our audience is put pressure on Ed Martin's office, Alice Johnson's office, the Trump administration, because we need to make sure that this man gets pardoned. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week. God bless.